The July 1969 Apollo 11 moon mission is widely regarded as one of the most emblematic occurrences of the 20th century.
Get used to the surface and what you see, adapt to the 16G and maneuvering around, and probably we just included a little more in the early phase than we were actually able to do.
The NASA astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin achieved global recognition for being the initial human beings to walk on the surface of the moon. However, despite the considerable acclaim, our expedition to the moon has far from been without its challenges. And since the United States raised its flag, there have been assertions that everything is not as it appears. Hello and welcome, you are watching Zeey, the Space Fanatics. And today we're answering the incredible question, how many people have actually walked on the moon? Do you require answers to the major questions? Then why not subscribe to Zeey for more videos like this one and ring the bell for more thought-provoking content. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, 7 lunar missions were initiated by the Apollo program of NASA. Apollo 13, one of 6 missions, was unsuccessful but fortunately was salvaged through a remarkable recovery effort. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were carried to their destination by Apollo 11, while Michael Collins observed from lunar orbit. It was a 2-in-1 general configuration that was carried out for each subsequent mission until Apollo 17 in 1972, during which astronauts Harrison Schmitt and Eugene Cernan landed. As the last human to set foot on lunar terrain, Cernan continues to hold the distinction of being the last to re-enter the module en route home. Apollos 11 through 17-13 ultimately accomplished the feat of landing 12 astronauts on the moon. However, the Apollo program was terminated well in advance of its originally scheduled date for a variety of factors, including significant funding cuts, a lack of economic return, and waning public interest. The proposition to terminate Apollo was formulated in December 1972, coinciding with the cessation of the space race and the apparent diversion of attention from the foremost scientists and engineers of the world towards alternative endeavors. However, in the subsequent decades and years, the speculation has never fully subsided. Meanwhile, 2 notably divisive alternative perspectives have surfaced. First, the fact that we never set foot on the moon to begin with. Secondly, that we have been considerably more times than the majority of people are aware. To begin with, the infamous assertions that the entire affair was fabricated. There were numerous doubts at the time and undoubtedly in the years since as to whether NASA ever successfully reached the moon. Conspiracy theorists contend that if it was indeed a fabrication, it was intentional so that the United States could prevail in the space race. Prior to the moon missions, the United States had unquestionably lagged behind its adversary, the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had previously established ownership of the majority of other firsts, such as the initial human space traveler and the first satellite. President Kennedy made a renowned pledge to land an astronaut on the moon before the end of the decade, and NASA accomplished this feat in a matter of months. Certain individuals consider the timelines to be overly convenient, the eventual shutdown of Apollo to be too dubious, and the grainy photographs of Armstrong et al. On the moon to be of little use. There are complaints regarding the unintended movement of flags, the presence of shadows on the ground, and the degree of disturbance in the soil beneath foot, which is either excessive or insufficient. An alternative perspective argues that the Apollo program was perpetually suspended due to the United States withdrawal from the Vietnam War, which rendered it unnecessary to continue the mission and thus divert public attention away from that conflict. For those who believe it was a hoax, Apollo May 11 have even been filmed in the rear of a trailer under the financial sponsorship of Disney and directed by the legendary Stanley Kubrick. Similarly, Apollos 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17 were executed until it became impracticable for NASA to persist in their deceit. However, the opposition to the conspiracy has been equally resolute and hostile. Film scholars have conducted an examination of the footage with a specific emphasis on purported inconsistencies or mistakes. One such claim posits that specific moon pebbles bear the label of studio props. Alleged labels have been rationalized away as fortuitous debris present on the film. Regarding the apparent absence of stars in NASA's archive of moon imagery, astronomers have also been consulted. The most likely explanation is that the landings occurred during the lunar daytime, when solar radiation eclipsed them. Recent developments have provided additional proof that the moon landings occurred through the utilization of modern missions to acquire images of the landing sites, which are still discernible from the surface. NASA has made available photographs from above depicting each Apollo location in a variety of levels of detail, with the Chandrayaan-1 probe from India capturing the precise location of Apollo 15. Reportedly, the Chang'e 2 satellite from China has also uncovered unidentified remnants of previous Apollo operations. Without a doubt, the proliferation of eyes and cameras monitoring the moon has led to a shift in the trajectory of conspiracies. In addition to theorists who assert that humankind has never set foot on the moon, there are also those who are certain objects in space that ought not to be. For example, the possibility that concealed bases exist on the far side, or that extraterrestrial artifacts linger in the dust. However, the Apollo 18 conspiracy is arguably among the most peculiar. Claimants assert that the Apollo program was continued in secrecy, contrary to what NASA and everyone else claims it concluded. From an official standpoint, Apollo 18 never even reached the launch site, much less the moon. However, what would happen if it were to be sent up? What could have possibly transpired next? In this particular instance, the theory does indeed pertain to a theatrical film titled Apollo 18 that was released in 2011. Written by Brian Miller, directed by Gonzalo Lopez Gallego, and produced in a discovered footage documentary fashion, the film was produced in this manner. As an element of marketing strategy, the film is portrayed as an exposé of sorts regarding the actual events that transpired at NASA during the official conclusion of the Apollo program. A final classified mission was reportedly launched, and NASA astronauts discovered indications of extraterrestrial life and a deceased Soviet cosmonaut, according to the film. If verified, it would imply two significant revelations. First, Russia also reached the moon, and second, aliens do in fact exist. However, that regrettable statement is untrue. It is merely a film. However, NASA, the authentic NASA, did feel obliged to issue a statement in the immediate aftermath of the film's release. The agency purportedly authorized the use of numerous assets, including logos in the film, but had no idea that Apollo 18 would be an obviously fabricated production. When it was discovered that it was not, and some viewers presumably mistook it for a record of actual events, NASA published an article titled Apollo 18 Myths Debunked NASA Style in an effort to clarify. It contains confirmation from Kennedy Space Center's Kay Grinter that the decision to cancel Apollo was financial, not biological. The much more mundane matter of funding is once more cited as the reason we have not returned. What is your verdict, however? In official records, a mere 12 individuals have achieved the feat of landing on the lunar surface to date. Soon the Artemis program of NASA will attempt to surpass that figure, even as private sector competitors such as Blue Origin and SpaceX engage in a new space race. China's CNSA appears poised to conduct its own lunar landing, similar to the tentative progress made by India's ISRO and Russia's Roscosmos. Thus, could each of the present strategies be striving for an accomplishment that has not been accomplished thus far? Was it true that NASA staged the initial lunar landings many years ago? No, the prevailing consensus is that they did not. The Apollo program transpired precisely as it is remembered in history, and it produced some of the greatest accomplishments in human history. Nonetheless, the allegations remain ongoing. Furthermore, it is estimated that 10 to 20% of the population is of the opinion that the moon landings never occurred, although poll results vary. Although the Apollo 18 theories are considerably more recent and less widely followed, they may gain momentum if anyone ever discovers something beyond explanation if and when we return to the moon. Should the ambitious aspirations of the present day materialize, the forthcoming years may prove to be genuinely momentous in the human race's endeavor to explore outer space. Following a period of stagnation during the 1960s and 1970s, we are now resuming the baton and proceeding forward. Nonetheless, even the most ingrained conspiracies may ultimately be realized in the present moment. It is currently around dozen, however, this is highly dependent on whom you consult. In fact, that is the number of individuals who have set foot on the moon. What is your opinion? Did we overlook anything in particular? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, watch other Zeey videos and subscribe, and ring the bell to receive our most recent videos.